Welcome back to this special edition of InfoWars Nightly News. It, of course, is the 11th anniversary of the tragic attacks of September 11th that not only took the lives of close to 3,000 Americans, but has also been used to destroy the basic liberties and freedoms, not just here in the United States, but in the rest of North America and across the world. Governments everywhere are using it as a pretext to torture, murder, and spy on their populations. And different military-industrial complexes of the planet have enriched themselves on the back of the 9/11 fable and those that were killed. The good news is, as was covered earlier tonight by David Ortiz, now the government, 11 years later, admits there was asbestos and that the firefighters, police, and other heroes are dying in record numbers of cancer and do deserve health care. But that doesn't mean they'll actually get it. Just incredible. They can't even get insurance to cover it. Of course, we, the conspiracy theorists that don't believe known liars, have been proven correct yet again. Of course, we knew at the time that they had done CAT scans of people's lungs just a few weeks later and had said that they were filled with asbestos and powdered concrete and glass, and that many people had died. So it is good that finally the truth is coming out. But we knew then that Christina Todd Whitman, the head of the EPA, had first said the air was deadly, but then was ordered to say everything was okay. I just can't believe that the first responders believed them and didn't wait until they got masked to protect themselves. It's one thing to go in the first day with a handkerchief tied over your face, but they could have easily airlifted in the respirators and things they needed within just 12 hours if the government had been honest. And over the next few months, they labored in that horrible environment. And it just shows the system does not care about you. You don't graduate into higher levels of the globalist system unless you're ruthless. Now, I want to go over 10 smoking guns. There's over 500. You can type in the smoking guns of 9/11. You'll see different compilations, some 500, some 300, some 100. There, over 300 of them are absolutely iron-tight proof that the official story is a fable and that inside job is the only explanation. That said, I just want to hit 10 of these right now, but I also want to add this point. The biggest smoking gun that we're not going to list here is historically not just our supposed government with Operation Ajax and Northwoods and so many other staged events, but other governments have been caught engaging in false flags throughout history over and over and over again. There are so many examples. One of the best examples that started World War II was Hitler, of course, who got more power as chancellor with the firebombing of their own capital in 1933, February 27th, of the Reichstag. But what's on record completely and came out in the Nuremberg trial was the fact that they attacked their own military base on the Polish border in Operation Gleiwitz, a subsection of Operation Himmler, a chain of false flag attacks that were blamed on enemies that they wanted to invade. Whether it was Danzig or the Sudetenland or Poland, they would run false flags, attacking their own bases, dressing up prisoners like Polish soldiers, and then shooting them, and then filming newsreels to show at the beginning of movies, and to also then put out propaganda over radio and in newspapers. So false flag, whether it was the Gulf of Tonkin, now declassified that it was staged to get us into Vietnam, or other events, these are one of the favorite things engaged in by authoritarian governments. It was recently declassified in 2012, you can just look this up for yourself, that Bobby Kennedy was convinced by the Joint Chiefs to attack the U.S. Embassy in Honduras as a pretext to invade. His brother said no, just like he said no to Operation Northwoods. So this stuff is widespread. It's even on Frontline on PBS and been declassified, that Nixon wanted to attack his own and the Democratic Party conventions as a pretext to clamp down on the public, but that was basically shut down by fears of the press would discover it. So when we question official stories where the system has the motive, the means, it basically stands to gain, that is a patriotic thing to do. Because if you're not aware of false flags, self-inflicted wounds, staged terror attacks, problem, reaction, solution, Hegelian dialectic, if you're not aware of that in history, then you invite the system to do this. We've recently seen Obama's advisors and editorials in the Financial Times of London and other places saying, we need a new Oklahoma City or 9/11 to get Obama elected. We'll blame it on our enemies. They don't say they're going to stage it, but there's 1 degree of separation there. I mean, that's how dumb they think you are. Gary Hart a few years ago wrote a letter to Ahmadinejad, published it in the Huffington Post, saying, you can just look it up, Gary Hart CFR letter, Gary Hart's letter to Ahmadinejad. And he says, hey, the U.S. stages things like the USS Maine to get us into the Spanish-American War in 1898. You better watch it. We'll stage something to come into your country. Back off. And then when we confronted him on it, it's in the film Truth Rising, he was like, oh, I didn't do that. When they showed him the letter, he said, oh, yeah, I did. Started sweating. You see, they operate at a level of statecraft where they pretty much admit all this stuff, but we're not supposed to know that. We're supposed to watch football all day. There it is right there. Good, we found the link. So Huffington Post, unsolicited advice to government of Iran. Go read it, okay? They operate out in the open like you were absolutely idiots who have an IQ of about 30 points. This stuff is so well known in government circles that they openly talk about it, okay? Now, that said, let's just get into 10 of the smoking guns. There are hundreds, but let's get into 10 of them. And the graphics and research put together so well by our research team. Why did NORAD, #1, stand down on 9/11? Well, Cheney, a month before, put an order in the only time in its history, since '57, saying you're not allowed to shoot down errant aircraft. Right after 9/11, he rescinded the order. So he took the power away from them so they couldn't do it. That is a huge issue and is admitted, but the power structure just hopes that you don't go look this up for yourself. Continuing, let's look at #2 here. What is the meaning behind the following quote attributed to Dick Cheney, which came to light during the 9/11 Commission hearings? And, of course, this deals with the Transportation Secretary, Norman Panetta, who since 5 separate times on tape to the news said, no, Cheney got there earlier than he said, and he did sit there while they were telling the plane was coming in, and 50 miles out, 30 miles out, and so forth, and basically told them to stand down when they had missiles on top of the Pentagon. Let's play a short clip of that.
During the time that the airplane coming in to the Pentagon, there was a young man who would come in and say to the vice president, the plane is 50 miles out, the plane is 30 miles out. And when it got down to the plane is 10 miles out, the young man also said to the vice president, do the orders still stand? And the vice president turned and whipped his neck around and said, of course the orders still stand. Have you heard anything to the contrary?
So there you go, and he's since elaborated. That's Norman Mineta, Transportation Secretary. And again, these are just a few of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of points that are absolutely key that people be made aware of. Continuing now with #3, what was the cause of the collapse of WTC Building 7? The building wasn't hit by a plane, and yet it collapsed in the same manner as the Twin Towers. Why hasn't Larry Silverstein offered a public explanation as the meaning behind his comments of September 2002 PBS documentary America Rebuilds, where he admits the decision was made to pull the building? Pulling a building is the industrial term for controlled demolition. And they continue as well to try to spin this, but now it has come out, and we'll get to this later, that they did order the building demolished. And the news actually reported that, but then tried to change their story. In fact, we have a clip of Larry Silverstein talking about pulling it right here.
That's such a terrible loss of life. Maybe the smartest thing to do is pull it. And they made that decision to pull, and then we watched the building collapse.
Now, understand, these are just quick snapshots. We have footage of the police saying, get back, they're going to blow up 7. It was all over the news that day. I heard it on CBS radio. And people said, oh, no, you didn't, but then later it all came out. There's literally dozens of these clips. But we had the BBC, and before that, CNN, report that Building 7, 47 stories, had already fallen into its own footprint before it even happened. And then it happened. And then BBC said, oh, that footage isn't real, and then later had to admit it was real. So here's a clip from my film Terror Storm, a history of government-sponsored terrorism, breaking that down.
In late February of 2007, 9/11 researchers reviewing archives of live news coverage from September 11th discovered to their shock that BBC World had reported that Building 7, also known as the Solomon Brothers building, had completely collapsed over 20 minutes before its actual implosion. First anchors at the London news desk reported it.
Now, more on the latest building collapse in New York. You might have heard a few moments ago I was talking about the Salomon Brothers building collapsing. And indeed it has. Apparently that's only a few hundred yards away from... Jane, what more can you tell us about the Salomon Brothers building and its collapse?
Well, only really what you already know. Details are very, very sketchy. There's almost a sense downtown in New York behind me, down by the World Trade Centers, of just an area completely closed off as the rescue workers try to do their job. But this isn't the first building that has suffered as a result. We know that part of the Marriott Hotel next to the World Trade Center also collapsed as a result of this huge amount of falling debris from 110 floors of the two twin towers of the World Trade Center. As you can see behind me, the Trade Center appears to be still burning. We see these huge clouds of smoke and ash, and we know that behind that there's an empty piece of what was a very familiar New York skyline.
Next off, Rudolph Giuliani, the mayor, testified. Well, let me just read the quotes here. How did Rudolph Giuliani know that the South Tower was going to collapse? Giuliani told ABC's Peter Jennings, we have a link to it here in our article, we were operating out of there when we were told the World Trade Center was going to collapse. The World Trade Center was the first steel building to collapse from fire damage in history. Who told Giuliani the building was going to collapse, and how did they know it? Again, that's on Peter Jennings' own show, and of course, before Congress. He also said they were out of the building early, in a later contradiction, because of a drill they were running, Tripod 2, of the buildings being attacked by terrorists. Just like every other big event, they have a drill. Continuing, in the days following September 11th, the FBI released a list of the 19 hijackers. At least 4 of these hijackers were still alive, it came out. Saudi Arabian pilot Waleed al-Shahari was one of the 5 men the FBI said had deliberately crashed American Airlines Flight 11 into the World Trade Center on September 11th. They also came out and said the magic passports survived the fire, and they magically found them that day as well. I mean, both is magic. Magic to make it out of the fireball, and then magic to be found, not 1 but 2. They also found, again, Keebler elves, Easter bunnies, and Martians, and the gnomes were running around, the unicorns. And Al Gore invented the internet, too. He was there, and that happened. And the carbon dioxide's bad for plants. Continuing here. With that point, it ties into the magic passports. Number 6, who told a number of public officials not to fly into New York on the morning of 9/11? And why didn't the people on the targeted planes get the same warnings? The mayor of San Francisco, Willie Brown, was set to fly to New York on the morning of September 11th. However, he got a call from the former head of the symphony, we'll later learn, Condoleezza Rice from San Francisco. He got a call for what was described as an airport security late September 10th advising against flying due to security threat. That's the San Francisco Chronicle on that. Newsweek twice reported that top Pentagon brass canceled on September 10th flights to New York on September 11th. But all of us are just supposed to ignore this and go back to sleep. Continuing here, from July 4th to July 14, 2001, Osama bin Laden was being treated for kidney infection. This is BBC. And Marfan's disease at the American hospital in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. There on multiple occasions he met with CIA station chief Larry Mitchell. Bin Laden gave Mitchell precise information regarding an imminent attack on the U.S. Bin Laden also met numerous members of his family who left the U.S. by chartered flights after September 11th when all other flights were grounded with blessings from the U.S. government. Go Look all this up in Paul Watson's article, the 9/11 10 Smoking Guns. It's all bibliography. It all has links to it right there for everyone. Continuing, a record number of put options, speculation that the stock of a company will fall, were placed on American and United Airlines in the days preceding September 11th, but only on those airlines. This despite a September 10th Reuters report stating airline stock set to fly. And expanding on that, it ended up leading back to executive director of the CIA, Buzzy Krongard, and his company making those puts. That was only reported, though, in the German papers. And the former German CIA director, Andres von Bülow, who speaks good English, which we should have him on, he wrote the best-selling book in German, 9/11, CIA coup, is basically what it translates to, and his findings are it was a staged event. Same with the former Italian president, who was also the former head of their intelligence. Oh, and now the head of the Italian Supreme Court's come out saying it's an inside job. Oh, but of course they just carried out false flags against their own people, movie theaters, shoot-ups, you name it, to blame folks in the 70s and 80s with the U.S. government, Operation Gladio, so they know what they're talking about. Continuing here, between September 6th and 7th, the Chicago Board of Options Exchange saw purchases, again, of also record put options. And number 10, Pakistani ISI Director General Mahmoud Ahmed instructed Ahmed Umar Shakith to hotwire $100,000 to the 9/11 lead hijacker Mohammed Atta, and it just goes on from there. Since September 4th, he met with top brass at the CIA, Pentagon, and the White House days before ordering that wired. And, of course, I should also add that you have 6 of the 10 9/11 commissioners coming out and saying it was all a cover-up and that the government was involved, but you're supposed to forget about that. You've got the head of the Defense Language School, Colonel Butler, saying it was an inside job. The list goes on and on. Listen, that's why the government tries to finance groups with wild conspiracy theories about particle beams and stuff from space. And look, I'm not saying people shouldn't have their own view. That's fine. But I saw that push by the media. I know when national media is here, they want to talk about that because they think that'll discredit a history of false flag terror, the admissions of blowing up 7. Okay? You know, clear blast points and squibs and bombs going off. That's the issue. All right, that isn't it for InfoWars Nightly News Marathon Edition. There's still more with my Ask Alex 45-minute marathon with Christy Hightower that we shot last Friday, but we've been so busy, we're going to air it today. These are the best questions ever we got from the Ask Alex group at planetinfowars.com. And again, we're risking our lives, our names, our sacred treasure to bring you this info. If you believe in this type of information, visit InfoWarsStore.com, where we have the great ProPur filters discounted by 10%, where we have the books, the videos, the T-shirts, everything at InfoWarsStore.com. That's how we're hiring the graphics people, the editors, 6 new reporters, everything. We are going 110%, so be sure and visit InfoWarsStore.com. It's amazing. All the best prices there on products I've used, I've tested, I believe in. I use it, I believe in it, I promote it. It's all there, InfoWarsStore.com. Again, thank you all of the live viewers of the show. Great job to the entire crew, the folks that have now been here about 13 months. Marcos Morales, folks like John Bound, people like Darren McBreen, Rob Dew's now been here, what, 4 or 5 years, Rob? Just amazing. And, of course, everybody else here at the office and all the new reporters, Jakari Jackson, just everybody. Of course, David Ortiz on earlier anchoring the show. Amazing job. God bless you. We couldn't be doing all of this without you out there supporting us, viewers. We are supported by viewers like you, not like MSNBC that gets stimulus money and banker bailout money to preach anti-family, pro-vaccine, anti-gun, anti-sovereignty crap. We are actually supported by you. So spread the word. When these videos later get paid forward, posted to YouTube and other places, spread them to everybody you know. All right, we'll be back after this quick break with the conclusion of the September 11th, 2012, 11 years later. Stay with us. Sick of the globalist eugenicist control freaks adding poison to your water and laughing as you get sick and die? Start purifying your water with ProPur. My friends, I've done a lot of research, and the best gravity filter out there, bar none, is ProPur, and it's available discounted at Infowars.com. Its filters are silver impregnated to prevent bacterial growth. There's no priming required. It's NSF 42 certified. Optional fluoride filters can reduce fluoride up to 95%. Easy to set up and use. Doesn't require electricity. Purify water from lakes, streams, ponds, and wells. This filter system leaves in beneficial minerals, which is key. Save money by not buying bottled water and avoid BPA that leaches from the plastic. ProPur is the best gravity-fed filter out there. It's what my family uses. Infowars.com already has the lowest price on ProPur. But if you add the promo code WATER at checkout, you get an additional 10% off at Infowars.com. You can also call to order 888-253-3139.